If you are listening to the sound of my voice, you have officially made it with me to season 2 of the Rainbow Bridge podcast. And I am so excited for this milestone, you guys. And in today's episode, I don't really have a rhyme or a reason. I don't have a topic in mind. I don't have anything in particular that I want to bring to you today, other than just reflecting on this journey. And as always, I feel like it's always best to start from the beginning. So let's start there. Welcome to the Rainbow Bridge podcast. I'm your host, Nayshondra Mercer, best-selling author, master trainer, and transformation coach. In this space, we embrace the diversity of humanness where every voice matters. In this season, we dive deeper into the heart of our faith journeys, exploring perspectives from the children of God, the queer community, straight allies, spiritual seekers, and anyone in between. Our mission remains the same: to create a safe and nurturing environment for all, where we can engage in thoughtful and conscious conversations rooted in the Word of God and sharing the gospel throughout the world. Together, we'll navigate the complexities of life and faith, transcending boundaries and fostering understanding. Join me as we embark on this journey of connection, growth, and love. Welcome to Season 2 of the Rainbow Bridge podcast. If we're starting from the beginning, that means we have to go all the way back to 2020. In 2020, I was at a crossroads in my life. I believe I was about 30 years old. I might have been about 31. And I found myself in a lot of debt in my home, first home that I had ever purchased at 25 years old. I'd been in my home for about 5 years at that time, and I found myself staring dead at a foreclosure. At this time, I was still working in the foster care system and child protective services, and I was not making good money. Like, I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going to toss it out there. I was making about $46,000 a year. Some of y'all are probably clutching your pearls right now, and I would not blame you for that. My entire career in social work, I barely made a living wage. When I first started out, I was making about $20,000 a year. And even after being in that industry for more than a decade, I was not able to crack out of that range. I made it into the 30,000s when I became a case manager. And then when I became an instructor at the University of South Carolina, the most that they would give me would be about $46,000. And I found a way to make that work because during my time in foster care, I wasn't in it for the money. I knew there was no money. I just told you that there was no money. I was in it because I know that children who come from very chaotic, traumatizing, abusive households need someone who cares. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of people that end up in the social fields are doing so because there is security in the sense that it's a government position. And if you're like me and you had student loans, you're trying to bank on that public student loan forgiveness in that 10 years. And so I did my 10 years and still got student loans to this day. So the plan didn't actually work out. But what did work was the love that I had for these children and their parents and restoring these families, putting them back together so that they could leave these systems. Because no family deserves to have its entire existence within the child protective services. And so I did everything that I could. I gave all of my youth and my young years to helping other families be families. And in doing so, I put off creating my own family, something that I have always wanted. And so it's 2020. I'm staring down this foreclosure and I don't have anyone to help me. I've asked for help from my family. I have tried to refi my home. I've done all the things, right? And finally, a decision was made after knowing that I needed to do something different, was to sell the home, take the equity out of it, pay my debt, and I decided to move to Charlotte, North Carolina. I made that decision to move to Charlotte, North Carolina because that was the darkest season of my life. 2018, 2019, and 2020 were the years that I changed the most. I've been open here on the airways, and I have told the entire world about my journey with navigating my own sexuality as a woman who has dated both men and women and been involved sexually, romantically, spiritually, all the things with both men and women, and exclusively only being with women since about 2018. And I've never come out and talked about why that is. And I don't know that it's important to, but I do think that what's important to mention is some things are very fluid. Some things are very complicated, and there are struggles that people deal with that other people will never, ever experience in their life. And as I've shared here on this podcast, me being same-sex attracted was something that I had always been since I was a child. And so for me, it was more about figuring out who I was. And in 2020, I had this moment, and I've shared this with a friend or two in time and said that this was my God moment. It was the day when God literally walked into my bedroom. I shared with you all here previously in the past that during that time I was struggling immensely. I was drinking a lot. At that time, you probably could have called me a functional alcoholic. I was always at the bottom of a bottle trying to deal with my problems. And I remember going back and forth with the Lord like, it's because I'm gay. As most people, I believe, who are same-sex attracted or fluid or anything outside of what the world considers to be normal, you begin to think that your life is as bad as it is because of who you are and what you're doing. And I remember that day that the Lord walked into my room, and it was such a profound moment. And I can't share all the details here, but I remember at one point in that moment, I got on my knees to pray, and I pulled out my Bible, the same one that I got when I was 12 years old after I was baptized. And the pages of the Bible started to flip all by itself. And it landed on a particular verse where the writer of that chapter was asking God who he was. And God's answer was, I am that I am, Yahweh. And it was in that moment that I literally saw the pages of that book lift off of the pages and jump onto my body. And I remember feeling super overcome in that moment. Like, did this just happen? Am I going crazy? Like, what is happening right now? And I remember seeing lots of images flash across my mind's eye. And it was versions of myself from this life and others. And I remember seeing multiple different versions of Nayshondra through different lifetimes. And every single time she was seeking the Lord, and every single time she fell short. Every single time she denied, every single time she turned her back, every single time she strayed. And I remember asking the Lord after he showed me that, well, if I've always turned my back on you, why are you here now? And I remember hearing, because you're my teacher, and you're going to be my teacher, and there's nothing about you that I can't use. And it was during this time that I got the nudge to start the podcast, to be able to speak to other people who had very similar experiences to me. And as you can imagine, I was scared. I was so scared. Every time I show up to this microphone, y'all, this is me being vulnerable. I'm scared every time. And I'm laughing right now to keep from crying because I feel very emotional. But I'm going to lean into it. I'm scared every time, but I do it anyways. And I do it even though I know that other people have a hard time with these kinds of conversations. I do it because the conversation has to be had. And the conversation has to be had because we're not talking about it and we're not reaching the people who need to hear it. And for me, during that time in my life, God showed me that I was operating in my own free will. Because at the end of the day, God has a purpose and a plan for your life. Y'all know that. Everybody knows Jeremiah, right? Like everybody knows. Everybody's always quoting Jeremiah 29:11 all the time. But the thing that I always asked myself when I looked at that verse and other verses was like, okay, God has a plan for your life. But if your life isn't going as planned, it makes you question, is this God's plan? And it could be that it's not. It could be that you are operating in your own free will. And so your life is not going according to the way that God planned it. I'm going to keep it a band with y'all today. Some of this is going to hurt, but I'm going to say it anyways because I love you. During that time, I was definitely operating in my own free will. I had come to the point in my life where I was like, if I'm going to hell, I'm going anyways. If there's nothing that I can do that actually get me into heaven, then it doesn't matter what I do, right? And we get to that place. We begin to wrestle and we try to justify what's living right and what's not, and what's natural and what's not, and what's God's will and what's not. And when it comes down to it, these things are real, y'all. And during that time, I was definitely living in my own free will, and I saw what that looked like, and I realized I didn't want that anymore. But this other piece of me believing that as long as I still showed up in free will consistently to my values, then hopefully my life would speak for itself. Because if a man operates in free will, then the Lord will say, let's look at his life. And so I'm like, all right, I'm the kind of person that literally gave up my life. I gave up having children. I gave up marriage so that I can help other people who have chosen to do that and have stumbled across hard times and they need more help. I have dedicated more than half of my adulthood, pretty much my entire adulthood, to rebuilding others' families, even though I always wanted one of my own. And no matter how hard I was chasing this family, I was never able to create it. And instead, I ended up gaining partner after partner after partner after partner, which led to heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak. To the point where you have to look at yourself and say, what is the point? What is the point? What is will? What is free will? What is living right? What's living wrong? And someone who's same-sex attracted struggles with this. We think about this all the time, whether they'll tell you that or not. I'm going to tell you. We think about it all the time because science says this, but then the Bible says that. And you find yourself wrestling back and forth, being tossed back and forth in the boxing ring from one corner of the ring to the other corner of the ring, trying to figure out what's the right way. And in that's where you become double-minded. And in the book of James, James says that a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And that is true. And so for me, I didn't want to be double-minded and I wanted to take a stance. And so I finally just said, I'm going to make a decision. I'm just going to come out and I'm just going to live out. And if my life reflects the values that are in my heart, then maybe the world will accept me. Maybe everybody else will accept me. And what I learned, my friends, is that's not true. That's not true. Even for the people who are not holier than thou, even for the people that are not going to judge you because they know that when they judge you, they're going to be bringing that judgment back on themselves. People are still wondering why you just won't do it right, why you just can't do the right thing. And that's going to be the thing that they think when they don't stumble over the things that you stumble over. And instead, they take the position of sometimes chastising, mocking, ridiculing, being disrespectful towards who you are, who you love, and the life that you lead. Although they may not be getting that from you in return. And so the dilemma. What do we do? My friends, I can't tell you that I have the answer, but I can tell you what the Lord has been doing in me. I have been having to really take a big look at myself, who I am, who I want to be, the things that I've done and the things that I want to do, and look at my life in a way that makes me reconsider who I thought I was. And I find, at least in my journey, that I come across this crossroads in my life quite often. And it's both a blessing and a curse, but I see it more as a blessing because only people who seek to grow have this kind of conversation with themselves, have this kind of struggle or tap dance with themselves. If you're not changing, you're choosing. We hear that all the time, but it's the truth. If you're not changing, you're choosing. But for those of us who are consistently changing, you're going to find yourself at a crossroads several different times in your entire life. And so in the same way that I was at that crossroads in 2020, I'm at that crossroads now in 2025. And the podcast is here. And I did the thing that God told me what to do. And it's been out and it's been heard. And folks have come to me and asked me about it. People have jumped on and done interviews. Other people have asked me about how they can start a podcast. Other people have asked how they can come and be a part of mine. It's done what it needed to do. And I've gotten the feedback that I needed. And so this year for 2025, while I'm staring down another crossroads, where I'm staring down the failure of yet another relationship and asking God, all right, God, what's your will? Because I'm not too proud to say that there may be something that I want for myself that I have always wanted that God just does not want for me. And if he doesn't want it, it's just not going to happen, right? Now, it does not necessarily mean that it makes me want it any less. It just means that I can't have it. It doesn't matter how hard I might pray for it, how hard I might meditate on it or tithe towards it. If it's not God's will, it's not going to happen, baby. And I know that this message might be a little sobering, but it's where I'm at. I'm at a crossroads. And in this second season of the Rainbow Bridge, I'm going to take y'all with me on this journey and tell you exactly what it is that I'm going through. There's going to be a unlearning process. There's going to be a relearning process because you can't unlearn and learn at the same time. You got to unlearn, and at some point you got to pivot and then start learning the new thing. And in the new learning, I want to be able to come back here and share that with you all. And I want to continue the conversations that we have been having, these very conscious, complicated, uncomfortable conversations, because it has to be said and somebody got to say it. And there are times where I absolutely hate that I heard the Lord tell me that I had to be the one to say it, but here I am. And I can see the direction that he's pulling me in, and it's a direction that I never wanted to go. Here we are being vulnerable again. For years, people have spoken ministry over me. And I never thought that she could be me because I knew who I loved. I knew the kind of people that I love. I knew who I am. And I didn't think that that was something that God could use or that I wanted him to use. But even still, even with literally praying and saying, don't take me into the church, Lord. I don't want to be up in the church. People are not going to understand me. I'm super misunderstood. I'm always misunderstood. I have felt misunderstood my entire life. Don't take me in there. Don't put me in there. Then people going to hate me. And what did he do? I somehow ended up in the church. I joined the ministry. And despite being open about who I am and who I've loved and who I have been, they let me in. And I remember praying to the Lord, and I was like, I've been trying to get into the church, to serve the church. I wanted to work in the children's ministry so badly, but I was never allowed in. And I couldn't know why, but in the back of my head, you already know I knew why. I was like, they're not going to let me in. They're not going to let me in. But also in the back of my mind, I'm like, why wouldn't they let me in? Because I can speak to it. You know, whether you agree with it or not, I can speak to it. And one thing that a lot of people don't like, I'm going to say it, is when somebody is trying to encourage, minister, or even chastise or rebuke you for something that you've never experienced in your life. Yes, I worked in the foster care system for more than a decade, but I don't be out here telling my mamas what to do because I ain't pushed out a child yet. And it is different when you're raising other people's children and when you're raising your own. That is not unbeknownst to me. It would be disrespectful because I would be out of place. And I say this in love, but everything that I do here at this podcast has been to challenge the people, God's people of the church. And it's just so that we can have a real conversation about these issues. And I feel like I'm the perfect person because I can speak to it. No matter how uncomfortable that makes me or other people feel. And so at this crossroads, at the start of season 2 of the Rainbow Bridge, we're going to talk more about it. We're going to talk more about it. Because even still, even that part of me, I'm always still telling everybody to go and see Jesus. Every single person. I never try to bring anybody to convince somebody to just absolve their faith or not believe in the Lord or that Jesus isn't real. And in the year that you guys have been listening to me on this podcast, you have never heard me say it. I won't do it because I don't believe that. I believe in Jesus the Christ. I have my entire life. And I believed in him before I even knew this part about myself. And it's not something I'll ever let go. But the good work that he started in me, he's not finished with me yet. And I know in season 2, so much more of what he's doing is going to be revealed to you and to the rest of the world and to me. Because I can tell that I'm being led down a path and I have been going kicking and screaming, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. I've been going kicking and screaming. I feel like Peter when he was like, oh, God, please remove this thorn from my side, which is what I said. I prayed Peter's prayer back in 2020. God, remove it, fix it, take it, absolve it, get rid of it, destroy it. Why is it even here? Why is it in me? Why is it in anybody? Why is it in the world at all? It's in the world because the enemy is using it to cause confusion and to separate families, period. And I know that, right? I know that on a brain level, a knowledge level, but I also know that in my heart. And that's the reason why I come here every single Sunday that you all will listen to me and I speak to it. Because somebody has to. At the end of the day, whether you're gay, whether you're straight, whether whatever you are, at the end of the day, anything that takes us away from God our Father is being used by the enemy. And I know that's going to be hard for my brothers and sisters in the community to hear. And I'm saying it anyways because I love you. And that is the reason why we need to speak up and we need to have these conversations with the church, because there has to be a better way for all of us to exist, knowing the truth, that this is a ploy of the enemy to separate families. And when we view it that way, we can better attack the problem and not each other. And at least that's my hope. And that's my belief. And I believe that in all of it, we can still choose to love each other and to be kind to one another and to love one another as we love ourselves. But you guys have heard me say it time and time again here. It's hard to love your neighbor when you don't love yourself. And I've been in a space where I have not been able to love on myself as much as I would love to. And I've gone through a lot in this last year since the podcast has been around. And a lot of those things have been really challenging. I was laid off last year, and then I had multiple deaths in the family. And I'm just now sharing with you all that I am going through yet another breakup. And it's all going to be for my good. And I'm okay with that. So, my friends, Buckle up, Buttercup, because we going there for season 2. And I'm going to be as raw and vulnerable as my heart will allow me to be, as it is continually being shredded apart and put back together. But I commit to being real with you guys. I commit to being honest, and I commit to being transparent. And I commit to standing on my faith and my firm foundation that is Jesus Christ. And I know that although I don't know what's going to come out on the other end of this, I know it's going to be for my good and it's going to be good to me. And I pray that it's good to you. So cheers, my friends, and welcome to season 2 of the Rainbow Bridge podcast. And as always, if you are struggling with seeking yourself and seeking your relationship with the Lord, if you feel unheard, if you feel misunderstood, if you feel like you going to hell because of who you love and it doesn't matter how much you pray, God won't take the gay away, I am here to tell you that God loves you still. Always has and always will. But if you need a guide to walk with you on your journey as you figure it all out, in the same way that I have had coaches and mentors and therapists to walk with me, I am here to walk with you, my friend. And you know it's all in love and there will never be any judgment and I will never shame you. I'd love to be your guide. I'd love to walk with you as you walk through your journey and on your path. And you can always find me at my business at Crossing Bridges Coaching LLC. You know that you can find me there. Check the show notes for how you can visit my website. And I would love to hop on a complimentary coaching call with you so we can talk about how you can seek yourself and seek your relationship with your Creator. Because I'm here for you. All right, my friends, welcome to season 2. And until next time, be safe and be well.